What's going on? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pizza Buffet live here for week 9 in the NFL presented by FanDuel. I'm Rob Pizzola, Pro Better, CEO of The Hammer. And not a great morning for me. And I see a lot of people in the chat early on here who know what's going on and kind of acknowledged it. John Palermo says, I'm still devastated over that Blue Jays loss. Unreal. Hit that like button. But I wasn't really sure how to start today's show because there's like this, it's like a weird elephant in the room kind of with regards to the Jays. And like, that was arguably the losing in the most devastating fashion imaginable. And I was there, and I'm not going to lie, it hurts a lot. Like, it was hard to sleep last night. Luckily, we got that extra hour. But there's like this kind of silence after a loss like that where it's not really angry. It's just like, I can't believe it's over type of thing where, you're just sitting there staring at the field. I was right behind the Dodgers dugout. I'm watching them celebrate on the double play. Everyone's running out and you're just trying to piece together what happened because like when you're in it, you're very emotionally invested. Everything kind of becomes a blur. You look back on the game and it's just like one long heartbeat. And then suddenly it's over like that. You can't even process what happened. So I haven't been able to bring myself to watch the highlights this morning. I just don't want to go through those highs and lows again. There's like a lot of hope and then some disbelief. Bichette had that home run early in the game. That place absolutely exploded. And, you just keep replaying things in your head. And I'm sure other people who've had a team lose a championship before, it's just like if this one thing goes our way, like one more bounce, one more call, whatever it might be, like maybe the outcome's completely different. And that's the crazy part about sports, right? Like over the course of an entire 7-game series, you're talking about like all these little moments that add up to decide everything. And for baseball and sports in general, I think that's what's like both beautiful and brutal about sports. When the Jays won in 93, I was 7 years old. I wasn't even really a Jays fan yet, just like a kid who likes sports. I've spent my whole life since then kind of waiting to feel like, what that must have been like in the moment, right? To see the city explode. I've never really seen that in Toronto. I mean, we had the Raptors parade. I mean, I guess it's a little bit different for me because I'm a huge Jays fan, but that moment of like pure unfiltered joy, it's painstaking year after year, just waiting for that to come back around. And a decade ago, I was very invested in a couple Jays playoff runs, and this one's, so much more so. So that's the thing about sports. They hurt because they matter, because, we choose to care about something that we can't control. And when it's your team and your city and your memories, like it's not just a game anymore. It's hours of your life. It's your routines, your rituals. Like you talk yourself into believing even when you know better. And that belief, that's kind of like the magic of it all. So runs like this, they're the reasons we all put ourselves through it. And the reason we keep coming back to sports. They give us like that connection, like a moment where time stops and like there's just such a large group of people who are all feeling the same thing at once. And that's very rare. In everyday life, we don't get a lot of moments that make us feel like that alive. That's why it stings when it ends, because it's like a reminder of how much we cared as a whole. And I know like people tweet at me and it's easy to say it's just a game. But if you've watched any of this World Series or last night, it's never just a game, right? Like it's so much more than that. It's stories, it's legacy for certain players and teams, it's heartbreak. Like it's the roller coaster that makes you want to just like never watch sports again one night. And then, the next day already looking into season tickets for the next year. So it sucks today. Years from now, I'm sure I'll look back at this run and realize how special it was, like how improbable it was when it started. And then as the year went on, you believe more and more. And then you get so much joy out of so many things. Like I was at Game 7, Jays Mariners ALCS. And that's just like such a high point in my life. And then it comes crashing all the way down. And that's sports. That's why we keep showing up every once in a while. The story does end the right way for one city in North America every year. And when it does, I'm sure there's nothing like it. Like I said, I've been through a Raptors championship before. I'm a bigger Jays fan and Leafs fan, certainly. I watched Toronto FC win a title after losing actually in penalties the year before, where I was there as well. It's the ups and downs. It's crazy. But anyways, that's it. Going to move on. Just wanted to get that out of the system to start the show. And we'll get back into some football talk here. Before we do, a quick reminder. You guys know the drill by now. It's Sunday morning. It's 11:06 a.m. Eastern time. Limits are pretty high. I mean, I don't expect to win, especially on sides and totals at this point, betting into a highly efficient market. I think anyone telling you otherwise on a Sunday morning is straight up lying to your face. That doesn't mean that you can't learn something here, maybe get some insights into how I think on a weekly basis. We'll do some prop bets, some anytime touchdown scores as well, game by game. Always shop around, of course, but check out our presenting sponsor, FanDuel. They usually have really strong prices on the props I give out. And of course, we are live here. I don't have my phone even in the same room with me right now. So if any news drops, please just drop it in the chat. I'll see it in real time. I can react to it. I'm not waiting on a ton of stuff today, but if anything comes out of nowhere, please just post it in the chat so that everyone else can see it. And, I can process that in real time and give you my opinion on potentially something that is happening in the market. Of course, before we get into it, 2 seconds, smash that like button, hit that subscribe, share it out if you can to a friend who bets as well, as that's the easiest way for us to grow the show here. All right. Week 9 in the NFL. Let's get into it. We are starting with the Bears at the Bengals. I'll be honest, taking a look at the current market here, I'm kind of surprised that we never got out to Chicago -3 everywhere this week. I mean, I don't love the Bears long-term. They're still a team that I would like to fade in the future, but this particular matchup, I think, sets up pretty poorly for Cincinnati. Let's start with the quarterback, Joe Flacco, dealing with a throwing shoulder injury. That's not something that I just brush off. I've seen this happen in the NFL many times before. It's not to say Flacco can't have a good game. He's going to be hopped up on so many horse tranquilizers today. Who the hell knows what he's going to feel and what he's not going to feel. But typically, throwing shoulder, no bueno in the NFL. And the reports out of Cincinnati haven't exactly inspired confidence either. Zach Taylor just seemed to be, pretty non-committal on what he's going to see here. There's legitimate concern he doesn't finish the game. Let's just put it at that. You combine that with how bad this Bengals defense already is, it's really hard to trust them. Trey Hendrickson being doubtful, pretty much out, is enormous. He accounts for roughly 20% of Cincinnati's pressures this year. When he's off the field, this defense completely collapses. Without him, they rank near the bottom of the league in pressure rate, in success rate against the pass. You add in more injuries, Marco Wilson in the secondary, Logan Wilson at linebacker. This is just a broken defensive unit right now. And that's important because Chicago, quietly ranks 5th in explosive pass rate this year. They're ahead of teams like Detroit and Buffalo. Caleb Williams should have a lot more time to throw than he did last week against Baltimore. That means more opportunities to push the ball downfield, use play action, motion, attack the Bengals second level. Yes, the Bears still have defensive issues. Their success rate numbers are terrible when you remove turnovers, or EPA, I should say. They're still missing 2 corners. But as it stands right now, it would be Chicago or nothing for me in this market. M. Castro says, do I get off over 51.5 both ways or just let it ride? So I pride myself on giving out some good stuff on the Sunday reset on Sunday nights. That one was a miss. I completely missed the Flacco injury from last week. I will own that. I bet some over in this game early in the week. Honestly, I tend to not buy out of these. I just let them ride. I don't want to have to pay Vig a second time or click that cash out button and that's pretty minus EV to do that. So I'm in the same position as a lot of you are here. And unfortunately, I'm just going to let that ride for this particular game. From a prop look perspective, I think it's 3 straight weeks now. Maybe I'm off on this, but I've been talking about one player on the Bengals where they just haven't gotten adjusted up enough for the amount of workload, and that's Samaje Perine. I played Samaje Perine over rushing yards this morning, some 27.5, 28.5, minus 112 at FanDuel right now. Looks to be a pretty good price. Now, that's been adjusted up from last week, finally. He was 23.5 last week. We're now 28.5. I still don't think it's enough with the workload and the Bears' rush defense as well. So that's where I'm going for this one. Samaje Perine over 28.5. 49ers Giants is up next. Played some over in this game early in the week. Candidly, better numbers that are available, that were available at the time. Even though sitting at a total right now of 48.5, pretty much across the entire market. FanDuel best price in market, by the way, on this of 48.5 minus 05. I'd still lean that way for anything in this game. Both these defenses are dealing with some major issues right now. Starting with San Fran, this is just not the same front seven that we're used to. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner both on IR. That completely changes the way that this defense plays. And without those two, their pressure rate has just dropped to the ground. Second worst mark in the league without those two guys on the field. Depth guys, Bryce Huff, Yetur Gross-Matos, those guys not being there on the defensive line only makes it worse. So even though they're facing a young QB and Jackson Dart, I don't know that it's a given that San Fran's going to make his life difficult in this game. Cam Scatterbo out. Tyrone Tracy, listen, he's a fine back, can fill in admirably there. And again, I don't know how much this San Fran defensive line is going to give the any resistance to the Giants. On the other side, unfortunately, the Giants defense is also in shambles. They are down 3 corners, Paulson Adebo, Cordell Flott, Art Green. Art Green put on IR yesterday. That's a really bad recipe against Kyle Shanahan because he thrives on identifying weak links and attacking them relentlessly. I would expect Shanahan to find ways to get both George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey involved in space and potentially on some screen stuff as well, forcing those backup corners to make tackles and to make some decisions that they might not be ready for. Offensively, the Giants missing right tackle, Jermaine Illuminor, doesn't help in protection. They've shown they can generate some offense, though, even through O-line issues over the course of this year. It's not quite as bad as last year. Last year's a disaster. Dart can scramble effectively. And again, with how little pressure San Fran generates now, I think he'll have some time to find some downfield windows. Mac Jones still under center for San Fran. Brock Purdy not ready to return yet. Not really much more to say. At the current market, I think the 49ers minus 2.5 is fair. If you're looking to bet this one now, again, it's Sunday morning. Either, I think the number should have moved further or there's been some resistance on some of these games. But if I had to bet something now, I would look to the over in this game just because both defenses are severely undermanned. From a prop perspective, I like Tyrone Tracy in the passing game. Receiving yards, looks like 17.5 minus 112 FanDuel. I think, again, you mitigate some of the issues at right tackle by getting the ball out to your back in space every now and then. I think it's a little bit too low. Not a massive play by any stretch of the imagination, but one that I did bet this morning as well. Falcons, Patriots, our next stop. This line's been interesting all week. We saw Atlanta money come in, I want to say yesterday. The number got knocked down from 5.5 to 4.5. Woke up this morning, took a look, and in most spots, New England caught a little bit of money. So kind of a back and forth here in terms of how the market sees this game and people positioning themselves on both sides. I still lean New England here, even, I guess, a slight bit towards the over. Let's start with health because it's a big part of the story, I think, for this game. The Patriots are about as healthy as any team in the league right now. Ramondre Stevenson is out. That's it. I don't view that as a major loss, given how pass heavy this offense has become. Outside of that, they are fully intact. O-line, receivers, defense, it's all in good shape. Atlanta, on the other hand, okay, they get Michael Penix back. They get Drake London back. Both were limited most of the week. You have to question how close they are to 100%. But defensively, they're very banged up everywhere. Now, 3 I would keep an eye on this morning: Jesse Bates, Jalen Walker, Leonard Floyd, all questionable. I've made them 50% in, 50% out in my number that you see on the screen right now. Billy Bowman and Zach Harrison are already out. And with Divine Diablo, their middle linebacker, still on IR, this defense has just fallen apart in terms of tackling and even like discipline, assignment discipline. So even if some of these guys do suit up, you can't assume they'll be anywhere near full strength. And that's a big problem against New England, because this offense is one of the best in the league. I mean, they're top 5 EPA per drop back, first in passing success rate. They're generating explosive passes on nearly 13% of throws, second best in the NFL. More importantly, Drake May has been carving up the blitz all year. That's key because Atlanta blitzes on a lot of dropbacks. May is actually second in EPA per play against the blitz. So that's a matchup that really favors the Patriots. Atlanta, on the other side, listen, they can move the ball on anyone. Bijan Robinson's dynamic, but New England's run defense is elite. I mean, they are holding running backs to very low yardage totals this year. And if Bijan's going to matter here, it's more likely in the passing game, in my opinion. That's why I struggle with Atlanta. I almost feel like they're too reliant on needing to be able to run the ball here. And I don't love the matchup necessarily. I mean, everyone keeps calling New England overvalued. I hear that over and over. Oh, they keep covering spreads. That, you know, they're overvalued, but they keep covering spreads. Like, if anything, they're undervalued, in my opinion. Like, they're covering every week and not getting the credit that they deserve. And what, for whatever reason, it's always like this. Oh, they've played such an easy schedule, this and that. I don't agree. So New England or nothing in this game. And I didn't do anything with props here. There just wasn't much that I loved. I can't get a good read on the backfield situation for the Patriots. And I know that's a lot of people will be looking to that. I really just have no idea what they're going to do on that side of things. All right, we're going to move through the rest of the games in the early window here in just a second, but FanDuel is turning up the heat every Sunday with Power Hour, the ultimate live betting window where the action is wild and the rewards are even better. Here's how it works. It's pretty simple. Every Sunday, including this one, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, FanDuel gives you a profit boost to use on live bets during the most intense stretch of the NFL slate. You guys know it, the witching hour. This is when games flip, teams rally. It's the Power Hour on FanDuel. And if you're watching it all go down, you've got some extra firepower to use on a bet. Open up the FanDuel app between 3 and 5 p.m. Eastern time. Claim your profit boost. Make your move while the action unfolds. It's called the Power Hour for a reason. It happens every Sunday, only on FanDuel. Head to FanDuel.com/forward-progress to get started. It's FanDuel.com/forward-progress. Please play responsibly. You must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. This is a paid endorsement. All right. Keeping it moving through the early window. Exesh, Jay's one in my heart. Appreciate you, man. Unfortunately, they didn't win in real life. That's the real problem. That's the real problem. Nathan says, New England and the Colts are similar in that people keep looking to fade them, expecting to regress. Maybe they're just good. Listen, I think there's a lot of historical data that supports, if a team, covers a lot of games in a row, that it tends to be a good bet fading them. I just don't love looking at historical trends in the NFL because the market adjusts over time, right? And if that becomes just common practice, there's a lot of money that ends up in the market on, something that I don't think really necessarily matters. I just like to evaluate the matchup as it is. I mean, I've been betting NFL for a long time. I lost for a very long time, just looking at the wrong things over and over and over. And I think if you just boil it down to the actual matchup, and if you're able to price that effectively, who's playing, who's on the field, how is this going to impact the game, I think you'll have success in the NFL. And Cottage says the market's sharp. It's a different game now. Trends are laughable. I would agree. I'd agree. Colts and Steelers, our next stop here. There was some movement on this game over the weekend. A bit of money showing up on the Colts yesterday to drive this one to like more expensive threes. Actually went out to 3.5 in some spots yesterday. And that was driven by a couple of players on the Steelers being ruled out due to illness. This total's also been bet up a lot. We talked about this one on the Sunday reset last week. At this point, a lot of the value is gone. If you were to force me to play side and total in this game, I would play Colts in the over. I just don't think that there's like a lot of room at this point. But starting with Indy, the offense is humming. Second in the league, EPA per dropback. They've done it with some injuries in recent weeks as well. Like Josh Downs was out, Alec Pierce was out. But ultimately, this game, no injuries to the O-line, no skill players missing. Jonathan Taylor running behind one of the best blocking units in football. The Colts can hurt you in so many ways. They play with pace. They use play action, motion. They run the ball well. They pass the ball well. Yeah, they face some weak defenses this year. I get it. Pittsburgh's not going to change that narrative. Like the Steelers' defense has been a massive disappointment. 25th in EPA allowed, despite facing a pretty soft schedule. Now they're dealing with major depth issues at safety. Deshaun Elliott's done for the year. Jabril Peppers is out. Chuck Clark didn't even travel because of illness. They just traded for Kyle Duggar. He's basically going to have to play basically every snap in his first week in this system because they don't have anyone else. That's a tough ask against an offense that ranks among the league's best in explosive plays. Now, Pittsburgh's offense, to their credit, it's been pretty efficient. Aaron Rodgers has done a nice job operating this system, getting the ball out quickly. The receivers get a ton of yards after the catch. They actually lead the league in open coverage percentage. It's pretty easy to understand why. They're just beating guys off the line of scrimmage. They rank third in yards after catch per attempt. That's important against this Colts defense. They struggle sometimes in tackling. They do leave receivers open. They have one of the higher yards after catch over expected rates in football. So there's that issue. Their EPA is a little bit inflated by turnovers. They're middle of the pack in success rate. They're overly reliant on high leverage stops. And against a team like Pittsburgh that doesn't turn the ball over that much, maybe that luck runs dry here. Overall, I think this game has shootout potential. Current prices, the edge is probably gone. I just trust the Colts offense that much more than the Steelers offense at this point in time. Kind of the same way that I'll honestly feel the same way that I felt about Packers Steelers last week, where Steelers are drawing money. And I'm like, they're fine. Like, don't get me wrong, but the defense is just not up to standard and Green Bay is going to move the ball. That's how I feel about Indy here as well. Good point by Josh. Shitty grass field. Colts are used to playing on turf in fast conditions. I believe all but one of their games this year has been on turf already. I will say there is something to that in the NFL, and it's something I do account for in my numbers, especially teams whose home field may be one type of surface and then go somewhere else. But Steichen, too good, in my opinion. Very good game planner. I like the opportunity for them to move the ball. But it is a good point by Josh. Carolina at Green Bay up next. I won't spend a ton of time here. A little bit of Panthers money came in over the weekend. Just checking where they're at now. FanDuel still 13.5. Most shops have moved to 13 or 12.5 at this point. Total also ticked back down. Early over money this week. I don't have a strong take here. I think the market's kind of in the right range on both side and total. The big storyline for Carolina this week has been health, especially quarterback and offensive line. Earlier in the week, the O-line looked like a disaster. It's actually improved a bit by the weekend. They'll be without guard Brady Christensen. They put him on IR. Their center, Cade Mays, is out to watch that center exchange to Bryce Young here. They do get Chandler Zavala back from IR. Looks like the right tackle, Taylor Moton, is trending towards playing. If you see him out, let me know in the chat, but I think he's going to play. That's significant because Green Bay can generate pressure with just their front four. They don't blitz a ton. So having a semi-functional offensive line is key for Bryce Young. And yes, Bryce Young is back. He practiced fully. The ankle doesn't appear to be a limitation. I'll admit I'm a complete idiot. I thought Andy Dalton wouldn't be that big of a downgrade last week or downgrade at all. He really was. He sucked. The offense just looked lost without Bryce Young's pocket movement. So getting him back is a positive. Still, this is a brutal matchup for Carolina. I mean, this Green Bay defense is really good. Green Bay's offense, number 1 in EPA per dropback. That probably surprises a lot of people. A lot of people. They lead the league in yards after catch per attempt as well. So they're generating some yak. Jordan Love has only thrown a turnover-worthy pass on about 2% of throws. He's protecting the ball while creating explosives. I'm not a Jordan Love guy, but if they continue doing that, it's going to be a hard team to beat. And defensively, Carolina's in trouble. 20% pressure rate, the lowest in the league. They can't make Love uncomfortable here. The Packers offense should not really have many issues moving the ball. All in all, actually, one more thing I just want to mention for this game. For Green Bay, one thing worth monitoring is linebacker Quay Walker. He got added to the injury report late with a calf issue. He's quietly been like, I think the middle linebacker position is maybe underrated in modern day football in the market of just kind of having that guy on the field in the middle there that everyone can rely on. Keep an eye on Quay Walker. I think those injuries are bigger than people may realize. All in all, though, like I said, I think the number feels right. Not really interested in laying a couple touchdowns here or taking Carolina with the status of their offensive line. A really ugly prop look here. I don't blame you if you don't want to play it. But I bet a bunch of Tucker Kraft unders down at 56.5 right now at FanDuel minus 112. I think you can find a little bit better in market. Kraft coming off of a huge game last week. I think a lot of this is also just game state. Like when I run a sim, you're going to have a lot of scenarios where, especially with what the spread is, where Green Bay is just leading by margin. And of course, somebody has to get them to that point, and Kraft could be one of those guys. But down the stretch, you might see a little bit more rushing. Minnesota at Detroit up next. We've seen very little movement in market on Sunday morning so far today, but Detroit was one side that got bet. Got up to 10 at one sharp book before Minnesota received some buyback here. Other than that, I mean, it's been kind of quiet. I don't want to say it's been quiet all week. The total got bet up. I think that was a service release potentially. Then it got bet back down. My number leans slightly towards the Vikings, but in full transparency, this was never a game I had any interest in betting. JJ McCarthy back at quarterback for Minnesota. That's the wild card here. I don't know much on JJ McCarthy. He's played 2 games in the NFL before getting hurt. It's tough to know what to expect. Personally, I watched a little bit of him in college. I wasn't high on him coming into the year. Nothing in those early games has changed my viewpoint on him. He struggled with accuracy, pocket presence. Part of that has been coaching related. Wasn't put in the best spots. This is going to be a tough matchup for him on the road at Detroit against that defensive front. The Vikings O-line has been a major problem this year. They're allowing pressure on nearly 37% of dropbacks. That's the worst in the league, despite not facing heavy blitz rates. The good news, though, right tackle Brian O'Neill back, left tackle Christian Darrisaw expected to go as well. That is huge because if both tackles suit up, it at least gives him, JJ McCarthy, a fighting chance. Detroit, meanwhile, pretty healthy on offense. They're still very efficient. Jared Goff takes care of the ball. Turnover worthy rate is very, very low. Detroit ranks top 5 in yak per attempt, red zone scoring. The offense just finishes drives. They move it, they finish drives. And this matchup with Brian Flores' defense, that's one that Goff has thrived in the past. And one of the reasons why, like, Minnesota blitzes a shit ton with Flores, and Goff has shredded the blitz. You look at his numbers this year, 75% completion rate, 9.2 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, no picks. If Flores keeps dialing up pressure, Goff will punish it. They've done this for years now. Defensively, Detroit's very banged up in the secondary. They're a little bit healthier off the bye. Terry and Arnold and Avonte Maddox are both expected back. They'll still be without Kirby Joseph. That's a loss. I'm not sure J.J. McCarthy's the guy to exploit it. So overall, I think the number's fair. Maybe a tiny value case for Minnesota. I just don't trust the rookie QB here. And listen, at some point or another, like, maybe there's something that we're not capturing with the Lions, who just continue to cover spreads. I mean, this is a spot that scares the crap out of me in terms of betting against the Lions. Okay. Few things here. Arthur points out Brian Branch back. Yes, he was suspended for the one game, so he's in there. Jalen Walker officially active. That's for the Falcons. That would help them out a bit. Dalton Schultz active as well. And we'll get to Houston, Denver as well. Denver, Houston. Let's just do it right now. Next game on the board. This number's done a complete flip during the week. Houston opened as a small underdog. They're now a 2 or 2.5 point favorite across the entire market. FanDuel sitting at 2.5 here. I bet some Houston this week. Gave them out as one of my hammer plays on Thursday's forward progress at minus 124. They're sitting minus 136 at FanDuel right now. So decent price. The big driver here is Patrick Surtain's absence. He's the best cornerback in football. Completely changes what Denver can do defensively if he's not on the field. He erases a player every week. And when he's out, the Broncos are forced to rely on Riley Moss as their top corner. I mean, PFF coverage grades, 86 out of 120 this year. That's not a number 1. That's usually a number 3. Even worse sometimes. And this week he has to deal with Nico Collins, who returns to the lineup from a concussion, alongside Christian Kirk, who returns to the lineup. And that's a nightmare matchup on the outside for Denver. Now, even though Denver still has a top-tier pass rush, which they do, second in the league in pressure rate, Surtain not being there makes it tougher for that pressure to translate into stops, right? Houston has made some adjustments offensively. They saw that turnover-worthy throw rate from C.J. Stroud early in the year, the O-line breaking down. They've now compensated by using more 6 lineman packages since the bye to protect him a little bit more. That's stabilized things. He's looked sharp when he has time to throw, and that's what it comes down to. If he's got time to throw, he can beat you. If he doesn't, it's going to be a struggle, but the struggle might actually be okay with no Surtain. On the other side, I'm not buying into this Denver offense. Big day last week against Dallas. Sure. That's the Cowboys. The Cowboys will collapse on defense against every team. This is not like a breakout for Bo Nix. He's extremely matchup dependent. He looks great against bad defenses. He struggles badly versus good ones. Houston's defense is elite. They're number 1 in the NFL in EPA against the pass, number 1 overall. This is not a fluke. They have a very good defensive head coach, great personnel. That's dominance. One of their weaknesses has been for Houston and why they've struggled this year on the offensive side, red zone efficiency, second worst in the league, 42%. They get Collins, Kirk, Schultz is healthy. That should improve. Current prices, I think the market's caught up. I don't think you can say Houston should be like a full field goal, 3.5, but in my opinion, this is the side. I also don't love playing props on players returning from injury, but I'm going to do it anyways here. And I played Nico Collins over 4.5 receptions. This one's a little bit juicier. Obviously, I don't want to dismiss that. I think it was minus 142 FanDuel before I came on air. I actually considered Christian Kirk as well. The difference is Kirk's coming off a soft tissue injury, more likely to be re-aggravated. Nico Collins, full practices all week. He's talked about how he's feeling great off the concussion. So I ended up going with that. Big Ross. Schultz looking slower than late career Witten. I don't know that that's possible. Jason Witten at the end was rough. But you know what? He's a good target over the middle of the field in the red zone. So I'll give him that. Chargers at Tennessee. I gave out the Chargers as my triple hammer play on Thursday. I still feel pretty good about that position. I know it's like the big public play, and people like to avoid that type of stuff. The market's been bouncing around a lot in this game. Looking at where we stand right now, FanDuel's now out to, looks like a very expensive, or it's actually a 10.5 right now, as you see up on screen. They're one of the few books to move through the 10. We still see some 9.5, so kind of all over the place. Let's start with the obvious. Listen, I think this number is still short. I'm just going to tell you right there. Let's start with the obvious. Tennessee is really bad. They're a terrible football team. Through 8 weeks, we have a large enough sample to confidently say they are the worst team in the league. They can't pass the ball. It's been completely non-functional. The injuries continue to pile up. Calvin Ridley missing his 3rd straight game. Jeffrey Simmons, their defensive anchor, is out. Arden Key is out. Safety Xavier Woods is out. They've lost multiple corners between injuries and trades. L'Jarius Sneed on IR. Roger McCreary, Jarvis Brownlee gone. That secondary is now down to replacement level players across the board that are going to get run. Meanwhile, the Chargers are getting healthy. They got Joe Alt back last week. It made, guess what, a massive difference against a team that is known for generating pressure in Minnesota. Herbert was comfortable for the first time in weeks. The offense finally looked like itself again, like they did early in the season. They even get good news in Derwin James, who left with an ankle injury last week. He practiced very early, no injury designation. So the Chargers are close to full strength on both sides of the ball. And this is just such a good matchup. Tennessee generates no pressure. 12.9 pressures per game. That's with Simmons in the lineup for most of the year. Without him, it is going to be open season for Herbert. I mean, he already ranks near the top of the league in completion percentage against tight coverage. Imagine what he's going to do when his receivers are just getting separation and he has time in the pocket. He's going to shred this defense. Defensively, the Chargers, they also got Khalil Mack and Denzel Perryman back a few weeks ago. Both looked great last week. The difference is night and day. Khalil Mack had 5 pressures. Perryman helps lock down the run. Overall, this defense is playing with some bite again. Bottom line, Tennessee, no O-line, no weapons, no pass rush. We all know this. I just don't think it's priced enough into the game. So that's where I'm at. I bet a lot on the Chargers this week, and it's going to hold my nose and hope it comes through here. No props on this game. Again, I strongly considered Herbert over passing yards. There's just too many scenarios where, kind of similar to last week, where they're front running and he can't reach those numbers. Okay. Javon Holland inactive for the Giants. It's a little bit of a surprise, and it makes things even worse. I talked about that game already, and the over. That's just another. The secondary for the Giants is in disaster mode right now. Really, really, really struggling. We'll move on to the late window in just a second. Reminder, tonight, after Sunday Night Football is done, soon as Seahawks Commanders goes final, I'm live right back here on Forward Progress with Clive Bixby. It's called the Sunday Reset. Spend about half an hour reviewing the day, and then we flip it to week 10. We give you our early reads, our early thoughts in real time. It's the first time I look at numbers, and you get to see my reaction in real time. So if you enjoy this show, I'm sure you'll enjoy that one later on tonight. If you're still up, and if not, you can listen to it on the replay tomorrow morning on your drive into work or whatever else is going on for you at that time. Also, before we get into the late window here, if you haven't already, we got, looks like 780 live here on Pizza Buffet on Twitter right now. Another 500 plus on Twitter. Sorry, I meant YouTube. Just smash that like button if you can. Goes a long way, helps us grow the show. But if you haven't already, smash that like button. All right, late window here. I'm going to motor through a little bit more because I spent a little bit of too much time off the top giving you my thoughts on the Blue Jays. Jags and Raiders, our starting point. This number slid off 3 during the week, and that made sense, in my opinion, once the injury news started to firm up. Looking at the market as it stands right now, we even got some 2s, so more Raiders money coming in here. Totals all over the place. You very, very rarely see 2 sharp books on opposite sides of 44, but that's what we have in this game as well. FanDuel on the lower end at 43.5. The main reason I wanted the Raiders earlier in the week was the expectation that they were going to get guys back. Max Crosby said publicly he was going to play, and he said it with a lot of conviction, so I thought that mattered. Not because the Raiders are some elite stop unit with him, but because they are just flat out terrible without him. And with him, listen, they're probably still a below average defense, but at least they can create some negative plays and get off the field. Without him, they generate no pressure. It snowballs. But also getting Brock Bowers back on offense is huge because the Raiders passing game has looked completely broken when him and Jacoby Myers aren't available. But remember, Brock Bowers, even though he's a tight end, he's their number one option. Like, he's the guy that's going to do damage for this team. It's not just a tight end being out. It's their number one threat. So I think getting him back in the lineup is massive for the Raiders, especially healthy as well, having the bye week. On the Jacksonville side, the week went in the opposite direction. They lose Travis Hunter to IR late, which affects them on both offense and defense. Eric Murray, starting safety, is out too as well. That's, a couple pieces on defense that are gone in the secondary. Now, the other thing with Jacksonville is I think the market, I was going to say, I think the market has been a little slow to downgrade them, but it's been Raiders money this week, so I can't really say that. A lot of the early season success came from the defense turning other teams over. I mean, they had 14 takeaways in the first 5 games. It's not really sustainable. In the 2 games before the bye, turnovers disappeared. They got blown out twice. So it's not so much that everything has fallen apart. It's just that I think the team results looked a lot better than the underlying play because the defense was winning on these big leverage plays. But when the turnovers went away, so did the score lines. Ultimately, I still think Jacksonville has real problems. Drop rate is way, way too high. Brian Thomas Jr.'s got something going on with his shoulder. He's going to have off-season surgery or something because he's running routes and going back to the huddle, with his shoulder down. There's something going on there. They have operational stuff issues like late snaps, formation, can't get the right packages on the field. It's a mess of the team. At 3, I liked it a lot. I know it's not 3 anymore. Less so now. I still lean Raiders. Health has swung their way. Jacksonville's early season turnover luck, came down to earth. Alan Lopez says he bets his own unders. If you're referring to Brian Thomas Jr., I hope so, because my prop look for this game is BTJ under 5.5 receptions, minus 124 FanDuel. Listen, there's some 110s out there. He's hit this number once all year, and he's got a nagging shoulder injury. I know it's the Raiders. That's where I'm going. Saints, Rams. Another game. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this one. Not a whole lot of market movement here. Rams pretty much minus 14 everywhere. Expensive 13.5 at FanDuel. Total's been sitting in like this 44.5 range all week. I didn't really play anything here. Well, that's not true. I sprinkled on the Saints money line at some big prices, plus 750 up to plus 800. Listen, just taking a shot on the unknown with Tyler Shuck starting at quarterback. I like these types of spots for some fat tail outcomes, but that's really what makes this game so hard to price. Like, no one knows what Shuck is going to look like in the NFL. Spencer Rattler had been giving the Saints like some decent floor performances earlier in the year, but the offense has like hit its ceiling with him. It's the last few weeks has been all check downs, all underneath stuff, bottom 5 EPA per dropback, dead last in the league in explosive pass rate, 4.5%. That should be impossible with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed on the outside. They cannot create anything downfield, so it makes sense to see what Shuck can do here. The problem is this is a pretty tough defense to make your first start against. I mean, the Rams defense is solid. Jared Verse, Byron Young, these are relentless guys. The Saints are missing their center, Eric McCoy. It's not a great setup for protecting a rookie quarterback. And on the other side, the Rams get Rob Havenstein back at right tackle. They get Puka Nacua back. this is a Saints defense that blitzes often, but still ranks bottom 10 in pressure rate. Just not a good combination. New Orleans is not built to slow down this Rams offense. They just don't generate enough pressure to do so. So I think there'll be a lot of chunk plays in this game. Ultimately, just honestly, the number to me is fine. Again, I don't mind some fat tail outcome stuff here, whether you just want to go the other way and bet some Rams like insane alts. I just prefer to go the Saints way, but that's how I bet it. No prop looks here. I did think that the Shuck passing yards over and Kamara rushing yards overs were a little bit light, but ultimately don't have a good feel for the game and didn't play it. Game of the day is Chiefs at Bills in the late window. I think there's some real two-way interest in this game, just based off of how we've seen the market move and where it's settled right now. FanDuel currently KC -1.5, -114. Most books sitting at 2. FanDuel also at 52.5, and we have some sharper books at 53 as well. Let's start with the matchup because it's a clear contrast, I think, in health and stability. Kansas City's healthy, plain and simple. They'll get Trey Smith back at right guard, helps the run game, keeps Mahomes clean. Left tackle Josh Simmons is still out. They've adjusted to that just fine for the last 3 weeks. Isaiah Pacheco, I don't know who thinks that absence is a hit. That guy hasn't looked explosive in years. Kareem Hunt, Rashad Smith, they can handle the load just fine. On the other side, Buffalo's defense, I'm just not a fan. The interior defensive line is decimated. Ed Oliver went on IR. Daquan Jones is still out. They're down multiple depth guys inside. Shaq Thompson out at linebacker. Taylor Rapp is on IR in the secondary. Teron Johnson, that's one to watch today as well. He popped up late in the week on the injury report with a groin issue out of nowhere. That's a brutal setup against KC's offense because they love to attack the middle of the field. They love to get the ball out in space to Kelsey, Rice, Worthy. Buffalo's ranking second last in the league against 12 personnel in terms of EPA. The Chiefs use those 2 tight end looks more than a lot of teams, about a third of the time. So I would expect them to lean into that a lot. The Bills' defensive numbers are just so misleading. They face one of the softest schedules of opposing offenses and quarterbacks in the league. When they've taken a step up in class, whether that be Baltimore or New England, they've gotten shredded. Now they're facing, in my opinion, a very, very good offense. And, I'll steal from Nathan in the chat, a wagon, basically, at this point. Meanwhile, Josh Allen and the Bills offense, they have faced very limited pass rushes this season. This will be one of the toughest that they've faced. I think the best pass rush they faced was Atlanta, and they're like an average pass rushing team. Chiefs rank 6th in pressure rate. So this is going to be a very different test. KC or nothing in this game. Could not get me to bet Buffalo unless this was to move out to a flat 3. From a prop perspective, I just rode Kareem Hunt over on rushing yards. I talked to Hitman about this a little bit, and I know he released Rashard Smith under. And I just like the interior of that O-line for Buffalo. They already struggle to stop the run. Take those guys off the field. I think Hunt should be priced over 50 yards. So over 46.5, -112 on Kareem Hunt. Over. All right. Seattle, Washington up next. And listen, this one's gone towards the Washington side of things. And listen, I somewhat get it. Jaden Daniels back. The Laramie Tunsil left tackle situation where, he was maybe considered long shot to play early in the week, ends up being very likely to play here. I think Seattle's another one of these teams where the priors were very low on them going into the year. And there just needs to be an adjustment made on who this team is at this moment in time. Now, obviously, I think with the way that this is going for Washington, in terms of the market, we already have one sharp book offering a Seattle -2.5, -115. You might be able to wait. I just don't believe in this Commanders team whatsoever. And again, if we just want to compare the health of one team to another, you got Seattle, who is basically missing Julian Love in the secondary, and everything else is fine for them, versus Washington, who has a starting quarterback coming back from a leg injury. I mean, a little bit concerning for a guy like Jaden Daniels, where, I don't want to say he's reliant on his legs, but it's part of his game for sure. You have your number one receiver, Terry McLaurin, out. I don't love the depth options there. For those who watched the last watch along, KC Washington, you'll know how I feel about Jalen Lane dropping balls everywhere. Chris Moore, this is not a great receiving core at this point. The defensive line is in complete shambles. I mean, they've lost 4 defensive ends for the entire season, and there's a 5th on the injury report. Their secondary is terrible. I just think there's such a massive difference between these two teams. My biggest hesitation is you actually do have a few injuries that matter in the Seattle wide receiving core as well. Cooper Kupp is not expected to play, and Jake Bobo is out, as is Derek Young. So you are going to have JSN, Torrey Horton, Cody White, Ricky White. I'm not sure I even know who these guys are. And I pride myself on Cody White, 26-year-old out of Michigan State. I don't know these guys. So you have that concern where maybe Washington can bracket coverage towards JSN and make anyone else try to beat them. That's a legitimate concern, in my opinion. But Seattle's offense is just very fluid. They utilize play action. They take a lot of deep shots, where Washington has given up a ton of explosive plays this year as well. So ultimately, I'm not in agreement with the move towards Washington. Let's put it that way. And, every now and then I don't mind betting what I think is a team that's undervalued against another team that's overvalued. And this is eerily similar to me to Seattle, Houston a few weeks back, where, I look back on that game afterwards and I'm like, I can't believe I didn't bet more on Seattle. And I convinced myself that Houston off the bye going to be a good situation for them. I think these teams are in different leagues right now. Okay. That's it for today's games. Let's do Arizona, Dallas tomorrow night. I'll be on air for this game doing a live watch along of my favorite team. These are always the most fun ones. Really quickly on this one, I feel it's an Arizona or nothing at this point. The market downgraded Arizona, I want to say substantially on the Jacoby Brissett news. Some books even moved out to 3.5, so moved through 3. I mean, that seems like too much. It's not like Brissett cannot carve up this Dallas defense. He can. On top of that, it seems like there might be even some situations where they use Kyler Murray in this game. The tone from the coaching staff makes it seem like they might use him situationally, maybe a few design packages. I mean, that'd be highly unusual, but it could be a type of wrinkle that catches Dallas off guard a bit as well. Listen, the Cardinals defense, they're struggling to get pressure. They're bottom 5 in yards per play allowed. There's a lot of reasons why Dallas can move the ball in this game. I totally get that. But on the other side of things, the Dallas defense is already not good, and they're decimated in the secondary. I mean, Malik Hooker's on IR. Donovan Wilson misses another week. Elijah Clark is a depth safety. He's out. Trayvon Diggs is on IR. The secondary's fallen apart. I know Brissett isn't flashy, but he's efficient. He protects the ball. He can take advantage of these types of breakdowns, especially throwing to a guy like Trey McBride, who should dominate this game as well. So leans towards Arizona and the over in this game. I will give out a ton of props for this game before I go live tomorrow night. If you want to catch that, make sure you turn on notifications here. 8 p.m. Eastern time, though, over here on Forward Progress for Cowboys and Cardinals tomorrow night. Okay. Appreciate everyone who's been updating stuff in the chat over the course of the day. And a lot of agreement, I would say, which can be good or bad. Who knows? We'll see by the end of the day. We'll recap it on Sunday Reset tonight. Quick recap, just for those who arrived late. I'm going in no particular order here, but I'm just going to give thoughts on every game. Denver, Houston. Since we first started the show, maybe a little bit of buyback on Denver in this spot here. I personally make this closer to Houston 3 be Houston or nothing in this game for me. San Fran and the Giants, nothing on the side here. Both defenses really in shambles, though. Played some over. I think you can justify still playing the over at 48.5. I mean, FanDuel's the best price if you're going to do it. 48.5 minus 05. Bet it there. Indy, Pittsburgh leans to Indy in the over in this game. Carolina, Green Bay, not much going on for me here. Minnesota, Detroit, same thing. No strong opinion. Chargers, Tennessee. If we're still under Chargers 10, wherever you can bet, I would lay the Chargers in this game. Atlanta, New England, strong lean to New England. I mean, justifiable. I just kind of want to, when I go off air here, I'm going to wait to see how that Atlanta defense fully shapes up for today's game. Chicago, Cincy, we've now seen the market move to 3 flat everywhere. So I talked right off the top today about how I'm surprised that didn't happen. It's happened now. So nothing more to do in that game. Jacksonville, Las Vegas. Most appealing thing in this game would probably be Raiders money line at this point. I think I would need about 120 or higher. I see a 124 in market. That one's not bad. Rams, Saints, nothing here. There is a massive plus 862 on Saints money line out there. Anything 8-1 or better at this point, I probably would just click that for a very, very small lunch money type of play. KC, Buffalo, I like the Chiefs in that game. Seattle, Washington. Market timing pretty important here because you might be able to get a better number, but I like Seattle in that game as well. Recap on props. Okay, Jesse Bates is in. I see that now. So yeah, like this is probably enough to just keep me off of New England. I may regret that. Props. Samaje Perine over on rushing yards. That was in the 28.5 range. Tyrone Tracy over on receiving yards. That was in the 17.5 range. Atlanta, New England, I didn't do anything with that one. Indy, Pittsburgh, no props there. Carolina, Green Bay, I played Tucker Kraft under 56.5 receiving yards. Minnesota, Detroit, I didn't do anything there. Denver, Houston, I played Nico Collins over on receptions at 4.5. I considered Justin Herbert over passing yards. Ultimately, didn't get there. I'll call that a strong lean. Jacksonville, I played Brian Thomas Jr. under 5.5 catches. There's some minus 110s out there. Saints and Rams, nothing. Thought about Shuck and Kamara overs. Not quite the numbers I need. Played Kareem Hunt over 46.5 in rush yards as well. All right. Anytime touchdowns. Bear with me here. I've had a sim going here in the background. I'm just going to pull up the results quickly and just make sure that a lot of these numbers are available. You guys know the drill on these. Obviously, we've had some success on them this year. Doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. Candidly, I'm not going to give out like the 40 edges I have today or more than that. I'm going to pick the ones that I like most, biggest edges, and also look for some long shots. Last week, I think we went 3-2 on these. I mean, for the most part, they've been good, but just bet responsibly within your limits. Let's not go nuts here. 2 backup running backs I'm going to go with today. Let's start with, let's quickly load up Chicago and Cincinnati as one option. Chicago, Cincinnati, and FanDuel has the best price in market on Travis Homer at plus 600. There's lots of prices out there on Travis Homer. I honestly think he's pretty underrated. We have like undervalued. We have no idea how that backfield is going to shake up, but I would be surprised if Homer is not at least a little bit involved there. And when you're getting a price in this range with a favorite, you go for it. I think, listen, my fair value is plus 371 on Travis Homer. Lots of room there. Let's load up New Orleans and the Rams. I think small play here, but Devin Neal, best line I can see is 10-1. I price him just over 7-1. There's lots of scenarios here where Alvin Kamara gets taken out of this game when you consider what the point spread is. So I like Devin Neal for the New Orleans Saints. Again, pretty big long shot here. Not saying that that's going to catch. Let's take a look at really quickly. Let's go Denver, Houston. And this one is going to be the longest price I give out on the day. Best price in market, 22-1. FanDuel's 20, which is one of the better prices in market. I'm going to go with Trent Sherfield, who is the fourth receiver for the Denver Broncos. Marvin Mims is out today. Sherfield's not going to be like the main beneficiary of those snaps, but he is going to get more. And if you get 20-1 or higher, I think that's pretty decent. My fair price on Sherfield is plus almost exactly 15-1, $14.99 on Sherfield at 20-1. So those are the three long shots I'll go with. I know some people in here don't really like betting the long shots necessarily, and you prefer the top of the board. Typically, there's not a lot of value at the top of the board, but the two guys that I like the most, just going to check prices really quickly to make sure that we're good here. All right. In Seattle, Washington tonight, I like Kenneth Walker. My fare on him is plus 121, and you can find him across the market at plus 150. Kenneth Walker. And then Kansas City, Buffalo. I like Kareem Hunt as well. As long as he has a plus in front of his name, I think you can bet Kareem Hunt. I make him minus 108 as a fair value of anytime touchdown. So that's 5 there. 2 of them near the top of the board are Kareem Hunt and Kenneth Walker. The 3 with longer odds are Travis Homer, backup running back for the Bears, Devin Neal, backup running back for the Saints, and Trent Sherfield, the number 4 receiver for the Denver Broncos. So that's 5 that I've bet of approximately, let me see how many rows, of 31 touchdown scores that I have today. But these are the better numbers that I think are still available right here and right now. All right, that's going to do it for me on the Pizza Buffet. If you enjoyed the show, do 2 things for me on your way out the door. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subbed here as well, but drop a 1 in the chat. If you enjoyed the show today, drop a 1 in the chat on the way out the door. And of course, you'll catch me back here later on tonight for the Sunday reset. As soon as Sunday Night Football goes final, that final snap of Seahawks Commanders, we are going live. Myself, Clive Bixby. If you're not tuned in for that show, I would recommend it. It's probably the most valuable show we do on the entire network here, as we will get you a first look at Week 10 in the NFL and hopefully some great numbers to bet in the early going. Appreciate everyone who tuned in today. Thank you to the chat for delivering injury info and just mixing it up. That always helps us in the algorithm. For myself, Rob Pizzola, for my producer, Barbara Alberts, this has been the Pizza Buffet Week 9 in the NFL here on Forward Progress, presented by FanDuel. Peace out. Good luck with your bets today, everyone.